Hola mis estudiantes y bienvenidos a semana 4, módulo 4 a capítulo 1. Primero un repaso de la gramática útil 3, el verbo hay, there is, there are. Y un repaso de la cultura, el español, una lengua global. La materia nueva, el vocabulario útil 4, los meses del año y la fecha, months of the year and the date, our new vocabulary for this module. Y la gramática útil 4, el verbo tener, the verb tener, which means to have or to possess something. Continuing with tener años, to have age, to have a number of years, expressions that are used with tener que, which means to have to do something, y finalmente expressions that use el verbo tener. So let's begin with un repaso de la gramática útil 3, a review of the useful grammar 3, el verbo hay, there is, there are, hay. Do you remember how to pronounce I? That's right, it's not like hay for horses, the H is silent. So repitan por favor, hay. Hay. ¿Cómo usarlo? How do you use it? Well, hay is the Spanish equivalent for there is or there are. Hay una reunión en la cafetería. Think about what that means. There is a meeting in the cafeteria. Hay 3 estudiantes en la clase. Tell me what that means in inglés. There are 3 students in the class. Hay unos libros en la mesa. ¿Qué significa en inglés? There are some books on the table. And finalmente, hay una fiesta el viernes. We didn't learn some of that vocabulary yet, but that would mean there is a party on Friday. A little more information about I. I is used with both singular and plural nouns, and in both affirmative and negative. Por ejemplo, hay un bolígrafo, pero no hay lápices en la mesa. There is a pen, but there aren't any pencils on the table. So notice that no goes right before I in making a negative. So you're continuing here. You're expressing quantity. I can be used with numbers or with indefinite articles, un, una, unos, or unas, but it is never used with the definite articles that mean the, el, la, los, or las. Por ejemplo, hay 3 profesores en la clase, pero solo hay una estudiante. Think about what that means in inglés. ¿Qué significa en inglés? There are 3 professors in the class, but there is only 1 student. So you're noticing how I is used with numbers, 3, and with an indefinite article, una, not with el, la, los, or las. With a plural noun or in negative context, typically no article is used with I unless you are providing extra information. So let's take a look at how this works. Hay papeles en la mesa. ¿Qué significa en inglés? There are papers on the table, just general information. No hay libros en el escritorio. ¿Qué significa en inglés? There aren't books on the table. There aren't any books on the table. Hay muchas computadoras en la clase. And we had muchas with muchas gracias, por ejemplo. ¿Qué significa en inglés? There are many computers in the class. But take a look at this. Hay unas personas interesantes en la clase. And why is that different? We now have the indefinite article unas, meaning some. ¿Qué significa en inglés? There are some interesting people in the class. So that's why unas comes into play there, because you're providing extra information. Remember that I is an invariable verb form because it never changes to reflect number or person. I can be used with both singular and plural. Por ejemplo, Hay 7 estudiantes en la clase. So it's really easy to use. It means all of these things. Repitan, por favor. Hay. There is. There are. Hay. Is there. Are there. Hay. Can be used for both statements and responses. So, un poco de práctica. Escribe en español. You can write these down or you can just think about them como se dice. Primero, what is there in the classroom? I'm going to give you the interrogative. The question word for what is ¿qué? See if you can put the rest together. ¿Qué? ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase? ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase? Repitan, por favor. ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase? ¿Qué hay en el salón de clase? ¿Cómo se dice there is a Spanish book? Hay un libro de español. ¿Cómo se dice is there homework for the class? And for is translated as para, for the purpose of para. Is there homework for the class? ¿Hay tarea para la clase? Y finalmente, yes, there are some activities for the homework. And you've learned each of these pieces of this sentence. Sí, hay unas actividades para la tarea. Continuing now, un repaso of Explora y Exprésate, el español, una lengua global, Spanish, a global language. Some información general. If you recall, Spanish is the official language of 21 countries. We did some work with that at the beginning of the module. Spanish ranks second worldwide for number of native speakers with 405 million. Chinese is first and English comes in third. As far as the internet goes, English is the top language used for internet purposes, Chinese, and then Spanish comes in third. A few more things a tener en cuenta, to have in mind. Spanish originated on the Iberian Peninsula, which is that piece of land southwest of Europe, as a descendant of Latin roots for the Spanish language. It was King Alfonso X who tried to standardize the language for official use in the 13th century, 1200s, in the Castile region of Spain. And it was 1492 when Christopher Columbus headed for the Western Hemisphere. Spanish had already become the spoken and written language that we would recognize today. Un poco más, Spanish was brought to the New World by explorers who colonized the new territories under the Spanish flag for the Spanish Empire. At its peak, El Imperio Español, the Spanish Empire, was one of the largest empires in world history. And today, there are far more Spanish speakers in Latin America than there are in Spain. As far as the idioma, the language, Spanish and English share many cognates due to the fact that many of their words have the same linguistic roots in Latin and Arabic. Professions, we took a look at some professions where Spanish is used, maybe a different profession that you are pursuing. And in my tour work, I mentioned that at the very beginning, the intro to the course. I'm a tour guide of Niagara Falls in the summer season, and I use Spanish, the Spanish language, all the time in the tourist industry in our area. So, un repaso, en resumen, in summary, in how many countries is Spanish the official language? 21. In what place does Spanish rank in terms of numbers of native speakers? In the world, it is the second most spoken language. Where did Spanish originate? The Iberian Peninsula. And who tried to standardize Spanish in the 13th century and the 1200s? King Alfonso X. What do English and Spanish have in common? cognates that have the same Latin linguistic roots. So if you go on Jeopardy now, there you go. You're going to do great in that category. Now let's move on to our materia nueva, el vocabulario útil 4, los meses del año y la fecha, months of the year and the date. Muy bien, los meses del año. Repitan, por favor. Enero, enero, febrero, febrero, marzo, marzo, abril, abril, mayo, mayo, junio, junio, julio, julio, agosto, agosto, septiembre, septiembre, octubre, octubre, noviembre, noviembre, diciembre, diciembre. Now you're going to see a month come up in inglés. And ¿cómo se dice that particular mes en inglés? Abril, agosto, noviembre, enero, septiembre, junio, marzo, julio, mayo, diciembre, febrero, octubre. A couple of things that I want you to take a look at. First of all, notice the cognates. Which of the months look similar to their English? Quite a few, right? Febrero, marzo, abril, mayo. It's mayo, by the way, not mayo, like on your sandwich. Junio, julio, agosto, and the rest. Really, enero is the one that is probably the most different. What else do you notice? There are a couple that have the endings iembre, septiembre, noviembre, diciembre. Do you notice that the first letters of the months are not capitalized? And that is the case with days of the week as well. So it's just important to memorize them. And let's say them one more time all together. Ready? Enero, febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre, noviembre, diciembre. So let's talk a little bit about la fecha, the date in Spanish. When giving dates in Spanish, the day of the month comes first. So notice April 15th would be written el 15 de abril. When writing the date with numbers, the day always comes before the month. So 15/4/16 would be the 15th of April, just like you would say it in an expression. We can kind of think of writing the date like using a formula. To talk about dates, use this construction, el plus number plus de plus month. If you heard the question, ¿cuál es la fecha? Which is the date? You would answer, es el 4 de febrero, for example. So repitan, por favor, ¿cuál es la fecha? ¿Cuál es la fecha? Es el 4 de febrero. Es el 4 de febrero. It's the 4th of February. Instead of saying February 4th, remember el number de month. To talk about the first day of the month, it's an exception. You use primero. You don't say el uno de febrero. You'd say, por ejemplo, es el primero de marzo. Repitan, por favor, es el primero de marzo. Es el primero de marzo. When abbreviating the date, the day, the number is first, followed by the month. So if you look at this example, 4/2/18, in English, that would be April 2nd. But remember, they're saying the day, the date, the number first. So 4-2-18 is el 4 de febrero 2018. 2018. Let's put it together. La práctica, escribe en español. So you can either write in español or I will pause. You can take a moment to think about how you would say these dates. So, ¿cómo se dice el Día de los Muertos, Halloween, October 31st? El 31 de octubre. ¿Cómo se dice el Día de San Valentín, February 14th? El 14 de febrero. Muy bien. Número 3, la Navidad, December 25th. El 25 de diciembre. Remember, el plus number plus de plus diciembre. How about número 4? La independencia de los Estados Unidos, July 4th. El 4 de julio. Y finalmente, ¿cómo se dice January 1st? Careful now, this is the exception. El 1 de enero. So what date is important for everyone? Of course, los cumpleaños, birthdays. In Spanish, the word for birthday is cumpleaños, which literally means completes, cumple, and years, años. So those two words together, cumpleaños. Many Spanish speakers celebrate their saint's day, el día de tu santo, along with their birthday. And so el día de su santo is the birthday of the saint, whose name is the same day as or similar to their own. For example, el 19 de marzo, if that is your cumpleaños, it's el día de San José. It's the day of the Saint San José. To ask the question, when is your birthday? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? Repitan, por favor. ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? Y la respuesta, mi cumpleaños es el number de mes, número mes. Por ejemplo, para mí, ask me the question now, when is your birthday? Mi cumpleaños es el 19 de septiembre. When's my birthday in English? Yep, you got it. September 19. So let's do la práctica. First of all, tell me the months en español. January, enero, February, febrero, March, marzo, April, abril, May, mayo, June, junio, July, julio, August, agosto, September, septiembre, October, octubre, November, noviembre, December, diciembre. So I'm going to ask you, when is your birthday? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? And I'm going to listen for your answer. Tell me when your birthday is. ¿Listos? Ready? ¿Cuándo es tu cumpleaños? Muy bien. And now you, pregúntame. Pregúntame. Ask me when is my birthday. Mi cumpleaños es el 19 de septiembre. Muy bien, and you'll have more practice with that during your practice homework, of course, for this mod. And now let's move on to our new grammar topic, la gramática útil 4, el verbo tener y las expresiones, the verb to have and expressions that go with the verb to have. Expressing possession, obligation, and age, expressions with tener. So how do you use it? ¿Cómo usarlo? Perdóname. The verb tener means to have. It is used in Spanish to express possession, having things, and to give someone's age. You can also use it with que and another verb to say what you have to do. Por ejemplo, tengo que irme. And we'll get into that in more detail in a bit. So let's look at some examples. Repitan, por favor. Tengo dos teléfonos en casa. Tengo dos teléfonos en casa. Elena tiene 20 años. ¿Cuántos años tienen Sergio y Dulce? Repitan, Elena tiene 20 años. ¿Cuántos años tienen Sergio y Dulce? Tengo que irme porque tengo clase. Repitan. Tengo que irme porque tengo clase. And those are the three uses of tener that we're going to go over. Having things like dos teléfonos, having age like tiene 20 años, and having to do something like tengo que irme, having to go somewhere. Along with that, when tener is used to express possession, the article is usually omitted unless number is emphasized or you're referring to a specific object. Like tengo dos teléfonos, you're using a number there in that case, so you're using something specific. Note that where Spanish uses tener años to express age, the English equivalent is to be a certain age. How old are you? I am 25. So we're using the verb to be. But in Spanish, how many years do you have? I have a certain number of years. So we're going to do something a little bit different now. Of course, the verb tener has different forms, like the verb ser. If you remember the verb ser, yo soy, tú eres, él, ella, usted es, nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ellos, ustedes son. How many forms were there of the verb ser? 6. So how many do you think you're going to find of the verb tener? 6. So make a double cross chart. One line down the center. Tú necesitas papel y un bolígrafo. A line down and 2 lines across. And take a look at the reading and see if you can fill in which forms of tener go with which subject pronoun. Hola, mi amigo. Me llamo Marco. Yo tengo 20 años. Mi amiga Marta tiene 18 años. Nosotros tenemos 2 amigos en la clase de español. Ellos tienen 19 años. ¿Y tú? ¿Cuántos años tienes tú? Which form of the verb tener goes with yo? ¿Cómo se dice I have en español? Yo tengo. ¿Cómo se dice you have? Singular, informal. Tú tienes. ¿Cómo se dice he has, she has, or you formal? Él, ella, usted tiene. So the singular forms, tengo, tienes, tiene. ¿Cómo se dice we have? Nosotros o nosotras tenemos. And ¿cómo se dice they have or y'all have? Ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen. And the only form we're missing is the vosotros form, which is like a soft teach. You would only use this if you were in Spain. Tenéis. So repitan, por favor. Yo tengo. Yo tengo. Tú tienes. Tú tienes. Él tiene. Ella tiene. Usted tiene. Nosotros tenemos. Nosotras tenemos. Vosotros tenéis. Vosotras tenéis. Ellos tienen. Ellas tienen. Ustedes tienen. Here are the forms of the verb tener in the present indicative tense, and this is en tu libro, página 28. ¿Cómo se dice I have? Yo tengo. You have, tú tienes. He, she, you formal have. Él, ella, usted tiene. Nosotros, nosotras tenemos. We have. You guys or you gals have. Vosotros, vosotras tenéis. And they have or y'all have. Ellos, ellas, ustedes tienen. Now note, when you change a verb into its various forms, the process is known as conjugation. Conjugation is taking that verb tener, which is the main verb, the root of where these different forms come from, taking the verb and changing it to match the subject. That's what conjugation is. So tener, unconjugated, not conjugated, is tener. Conjugated in the present indicative tense would be the forms that we're working on. Before a verb is conjugated, it ends in either AR, ER, or IR. So tener, of course, ends in ER. It's an ER ending verb. This form of the verb, before it's conjugated, is called the infinitive form. It's also the form of the verb that you would find in the dictionary. If you were reading along and you came across the word tengo, and you looked it up in a dictionary and said, what does this mean? It would say, si tener. You would need to know that it comes from that infinitive. Also, it's the form that has to in it. So tener means to have. So I wouldn't speak in infinitives. I wouldn't say yo tener. That would mean I to have. Ellos tener, they to have. Would you be understood? Absolutely. But of course, we work on conjugating all these verbs so that you know how to speak properly and write properly in Spanish. Let's talk about tener as it's used with possession. To talk about possessing, owning something, use the verb tener. The verb tener means to have. Por ejemplo, ¿cómo se dice I have a pen? Yo tengo un bolígrafo. ¿Cómo se dice the students have some books? Now think about it. Come up with the word for the students and then think, what would I replace the students with? Which subject pronoun? Would I replace the students with I, you, he, she, we, they? They. Okay, so that's going to give you the correct form of the verb tener to use. The students have some books. Los estudiantes tienen unos libros. So you do that little switch thing in your mind as a way to help guide you to the form of the verb you would use, which is tienen, because you could replace los estudiantes with ellos in your mind, giving you the correct form. Last one, you need to do the same type of thing. The girl and I have a class. The girl and I have a class. Think of how you would say the girl and I. What could you replace the girl and I with to help you guide you toward which form of tener to use? La chica y yo tenemos una clase. If you remember anything that has y yo, nosotros. Anybody and I, that becomes we. Y yo, nosotros. Y yo, nosotros. A little trick to help you to remember. So un poco de práctica, match the columns to form complete sentences. So I'm going to say the number, and you read the whole statement aloud. Por ejemplo, número 1, usted, I look down my list, tiene dos mochilas. Número 2, say the whole sentence. Ellas tienen una clase. Ellas tienen una clase. They have a class. Número 3, yo. Yo tengo unos papeles. I have some papers. Número 4, tú. Tú tienes los libros. You have the books. Y número 5, Marta y yo. Y yo. Remember where you go with that one. Marta y yo tenemos la tarea. So let's do a little bit of práctica. I'm going to ask you a question. La pregunta is, what do you have? ¿Qué tienes? I want you to look around in the room that you're sitting in. I want you to think for a moment, the backpack maybe you have, or what you have beside you, and you're going to answer, I have, yo tengo. Okay, here I go. ¿Qué tienes? Give me one answer. ¿Qué tienes? Maybe you answered, yo tengo una computadora portátil. Yo tengo un iPad. Do you have something to write with? I'll ask you, ¿qué tienes? Yo tengo un bolígrafo. Yo tengo un lápiz. Take a look around and see if there's anything that's paper that has writing on it. ¿Qué tienes? I'm looking across my room. Yo tengo 6 libros en la mesa. I have 6 books sitting on the table there. Muy bien. Now let's talk about tener plus años, to give age. To talk about how old someone is, you use tener plus the number plus the word años. So a person has a certain number of years. Por ejemplo, Juanita has 15 years. We would say Juanita is 15. But if you said that in Spanish, Juanita es 15, you would have just turned Juanita into the number 15. She is no longer Juanita, that young girl. She is actually the number 15 walking around. Works very different in Spanish. So you need to say that Juanita has 15 years. ¿Cómo se dice Juanita has 15 years en español? Juanita tiene 15 años. Now notice in English we can just say Juanita is 15. If you said in Spanish, Juanita tiene 15, she has 15 what? Cats, dogs, books. You need to put años at the end. She has 15 years. So let's do another ejemplo. ¿Cómo se dice the ladies have 43 years? The ladies are 43. Las mujeres tienen, because you could replace las mujeres with ellas, you need the form tienen, the plural, third person. Las mujeres tienen 43 años. Don't forget the años. So let me ask you the question now. ¿Cuántos años tienes? ¿Cuántos años tienes tú? So answer the question and tell me how old you are. Don't say yo soy. Don't turn yourself into a number. Yo tengo, and give your number and your years. Bien. La pregunta, once again, ¿cuántos años tienes? How many years do you have? La respuesta, in English we say I am. In Spanish you need to say I have. Yo tengo, the number of years. La práctica, contener plus años, age. ¿Cuántos años tienen? On your own, you're going to tell the birthdays and ages of the following people. So mira el modelo. We have the name Arturo. We have su cumpleaños. Remember, it's the date first, so it's the 28th of the third month, March. And we have la edad, the age. E-D-A-D, edad is how you say age. So we ask the question, ¿cuándo es el cumpleaños de Arturo? El cumpleaños de Arturo es el 28 de marzo. Remember the formula, el plus date plus day plus March. Keep in mind that you cannot say Arthur's birthday in Spanish. There is no apostrophe S. In Spanish, you always have to say the birthday of Arthur. El cumpleaños de Arturo. You couldn't, for example, say the professor's book. La profesora's libro. There is no apostrophe S. You would have to say el libro de la profesora. Then I'm going to ask you, how old is that person? ¿Cuántos años tiene Arturo? Tiene 25 años. Remember the number in years. So let's do a práctica. We have Martín, su cumpleaños, la fecha y su edad. ¿Cuándo es el cumpleaños de Martín? El cumpleaños de Martín es el 12 de abril. ¿Cuántos años tiene Martín? Tiene 21 años. I want you to notice that the number 21 shortens to 21 when it's used with a noun, 21 años. Uno does the same thing. Más práctica. Número 2. Sandra y Susana, su cumpleaños y su edad. ¿Cuándo es el cumpleaños de Sandra y Susana? El cumpleaños de Sandra y Susana es el 14 de julio. ¿Cuántos años tienen? Tienen 24 años. And we're using tienen because Sandra y Susana could be replaced with ellas. So we need to use the form tienen. Número 3. Mamá, su cumpleaños y su edad. ¿Cuándo es el cumpleaños de mamá? El cumpleaños de mamá es el 16 de junio. ¿Cuántos años tiene? Tiene 45 años. Número 4. ¿Cuándo es el cumpleaños de papá? El cumpleaños de papá es el 22 de febrero. ¿Cuántos años tiene papá? Tiene 47 años. Número 5. Gustavo. ¿Cuándo es el cumpleaños de Gustavo? El cumpleaños de Gustavo es el 7 de septiembre. ¿Cuántos años tiene él? Tiene 17 años. Y finalmente, número 6. ¿Cuántos años, ¿cuándo es el cumpleaños de Irma y Daniel? El cumpleaños de Irma y Daniel es el 19 de enero. ¿Cuántos años tienen Irma y Daniel? Tienen 19 años. And remember, it's two people, Irma y Daniel. Ellos would be the subject pronoun we could replace Irma y Daniel with, so we use the verb form tienen. Moving on, how to use the expression tener with que to say that someone has to do something. To talk about what people have to do, use tener que plus a verb infinitive. Remember, an infinitive is the verb before conjugation. So you're going to conjugate the verb tener, interject que, and then use a verb infinitive to say that someone has to do something. For example, I have to go. Yo tengo que ir. Or tengo que irme. Oftentimes you'll see the me at the end of the infinitive ir. So in other words, I have to get myself out of here. Let's look at another example. You have to read some books. ¿Cómo se dice you have to read some books? Tú tienes que leer unos libros. What about one more example? They, it's a group that's masculine and feminine, have to listen well. Ellos tienen que escuchar bien. Now un poco de práctica, tener and tener que. ¿Qué tienen? Say what each person has or has to do. So you're looking for the correct form of the verb tener. For example, yo tengo un cuaderno en el escritorio. Número 1. Yo un celular en la mochila. Yo tengo un celular en la mochila. ¿Qué significa en inglés? What does that mean in English? I have a cell phone in the backpack. Número 2. Nosotros que leer el libro. Nosotros tenemos que leer el libro. ¿Qué significa en inglés? We have to read the book. 3. Ellos unos apuntes en el cuaderno. Ellos tienen unos apuntes en el cuaderno. En inglés, they have some notes in the notebook. 4. Tú, 2 libros en la mochila. Tú tienes 2 libros en la mochila. En inglés, you have 2 books in the backpack. 5. El profesor, 5 lápices en el escritorio. El profesor tiene 5 lápices en el escritorio. En inglés, the professor has 5 pencils in the desk. Finalmente, número 6. Ustedes que escuchar el audio. Ustedes tienen que escuchar el audio. You all have to listen to the audio. Un poco más, otras expresiones con tener, some other expressions that use the verb tener. Expressions with tener, there are 12 of them that are very useful. And let's begin by saying that someone is in a hurry. You use the expression tener prisa. Repitan, yo tengo prisa. Yo tengo prisa. So to literally translate, we would say, I have hurry. So you'll notice that in English, we use the verb to be, I am in a hurry. But in Spanish, that would be like a literal description of you. I am hurry. I am the epitome of hurry. Instead, they use the expression tener to have these various attributes. To say you are cold, you use tener frío, to have cold. Repitan, el muchacho tiene frío. El muchacho tiene frío. Once again, we say in English, the boy is cold. In Spanish, that would mean the boy is a cold person if you use the verb ser, to be. Instead, they say the boy has cold. He has coldness in his body. To say that you're hot, in a similar way, use tener calor, to have heat. Repitan, nosotros tenemos calor. Nosotros tenemos calor. Some new ones now. To say that you are afraid, use the expression tener miedo, to have fear. Repitan, tener miedo. Tener miedo. ¿Tienes miedo del examen? ¿Tienes miedo del examen? Notice when we use the form of the verb tienes, not necessary to put the subject pronoun tú, because you know exactly who that's referring to. There's only one subject pronoun that goes with the form tienes, and that would be tú. To say that you are hungry, you use tener hambre. You don't say I am hungry. I am the epitome of hunger. You say you have hunger. Repitan, tener hambre. Tener hambre. Las niñas tienen hambre. Las niñas tienen hambre. Look at the difference a vowel makes. ¿Qué significa en inglés hombre? Exactamente, hombre significa man. So be careful. Las niñas tienen hombres would be the girls have men in their life, right? So you want to make sure that you use your correct pronunciation of vowels. To say that you are thirsty, again, you are not the epitome of thirst. You have thirst. Repitan, tener sed. Tener sed. Los chicos y yo tenemos sed. Los chicos y yo tenemos sed. To say that you are careful, you use the expression tener cuidado, to have care, to have caution. Repitan, tener cuidado. Tener cuidado. Mi amigo tiene cuidado. Mi amigo tiene cuidado. So you might hear a mamá call out to her little niña, she's crossing the street, cuidado, cuidado, be careful. To say that you are successful, once again, you have success. You are not the epitome of success, unfortunately, right? You have success. Repitan, tener éxito. Tener éxito. Ella tiene éxito con el examen. Ella tiene éxito con el examen. To say that you have a desire to do something, you use tener ganas de. Tener ganas de. Repitan, tener ganas de. Tener ganas de. So you have a desire to, and that is followed by an infinitive, one of the forms of the verbs, the to form. It is either AR, ER, or IR ending. Por ejemplo, repitan, ellos tienen ganas de leer. Ellos tienen ganas de leer. So they have a desire to read, they want to read. Bueno, y las tres finales, to say that you are embarrassed, you have embarrassment, you use the expression tener vergüenza. Repitan, tener vergüenza. Tener vergüenza. The two little dots above the U signify that the U is pronounced gue, gue, vergüenza. If it were missing those, you would just skip past it and pronounce the E. It would be silent. It would be ge, ge. Repitan, yo tengo vergüenza. Yo tengo vergüenza. Funny story, President Kennedy, back years ago, was in Cuba, walked up onto a stage and tripped, and said to the Cuban people, yo soy or yo estoy embarazado, thinking that that was a great cognate. He would use that to mean embarrassed. Guess what embarazado means? Pregnant, yes. He told the Cuban people that he was pregnant. So make sure that you use yo tengo vergüenza, I have shame, I have embarrassment, if you want to say that statement. To say that you're tired, you use tener sueño. Repitan, tener sueño. Tener sueño. Sueño by itself actually means dream. El sueño, un sueño. Repitan, él tiene sueño. Él tiene sueño. So he has tiredness, he has sleepiness. Y finalmente, to say that you are right, you use tener razón, to have reason. Repitan, tener razón. Tener razón. Las mujeres tienen razón. Las mujeres tienen razón. Repitan, tener prisa. Tener frío. Tener calor. Tener miedo. tener hambre, tener sed, tener cuidado, tener éxito, tener ganas de, tener vergüenza, tener sueño, tener razón. Call out the English. To have caution, to have heat, to be warm, hot, to have fear, to have hunger, to have hurriedness, to have a hurry, to have cold, to be cold, to have cold, to have embarrassment, to have tiredness, to have thirst, to have success, to have a desire to have reason. Call out the Spanish. Tener prisa, tener frío, tener calor, tener miedo, tener hambre, tener sed, tener cuidado, tener éxito, tener ganas de, tener vergüenza, tener sueño, tener razón. Y ahora un poco de práctica. ¿Cómo se dice en español? The woman is afraid. Remember, it's a tener expression. La mujer tiene miedo. And notice that miedo stays in that form. Don't put an A on there or do something different depending on the subject. It goes with tener. It's not an adjective. So tiene miedo. ¿Cómo se dice the boys are thirsty? Los chicos or los muchachos tienen sed. ¿Cómo se dice I am hungry? Yo tengo hambre. Perfectly fine to say tengo hambre. You know exactly which subject pronoun you're talking about. Only one goes with the form tengo, which is yo. ¿Cómo se dice the students and I are successful? Los estudiantes y yo tenemos éxito. ¿Cómo se dice are you sleepy? ¿Tienes sueño? You could throw the two in there or not. ¿Tú tienes sueño? ¿Tienes sueño? Muy bien, el fin de Module 4A. Buen trabajo y hasta pronto.